Every year, high school basketball players are scouted and ranked in preparation for their collegiate and professional careers. Um, Before this one and done rule was implemented, the best prospects could come from high school straight into the NBA, like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, two of the best to ever play the game. But in 2005, the NBA implemented a rule um, forcing prospects to spend a year outside of high school once they graduated, and they must be at least 19, which has created what people have been calling the one and done players, such as Anthony Davis and now Zion Williamson. This has hindered options for college players and has hurt the NCAA for viewership. It's just changed the landscape of how the game's played. And high schoolers have been either indifferent or strongly against this rule because it limits their options. A quote from Bill Walker, former Kansas State University ball player, in an interview for High School Hoops magazine in 2005. He said, "I'm against it. I don't see why you have to be 19 to play a game of basketball when you can be 18 and go to war for our country and die. It's ridiculous." So since then, there's been a war of controversy that is yet to be resolved, and with all the complications, that's why I think the rule should be done away with. The effects it has on high school athletes, there's a lot more negatives than positives. It limits their options as far as choosing what they do after high school, because they either can play college ball or they can play overseas for pro teams that pay them a lot less, and it doesn't necessarily, not necessarily what they want to do. It's either little to no pay, and college restricts them financially because colleges could pay athletes to come to their school, and just it causes corruption, and some teams just want to provide for their family after they graduate high school. It's what they've been training to do. And there's always the risk of injury if you're not getting paid for what you've been working your whole life for. You don't want to risk a year just to get to the NBA. And it's happened for some players like Greg Oden, and it almost happened to Ben Simmons. But a quote from, according to CBSSports.com, Ben Simmons, Rookie of the Year in 2017 and 18 for the NBA, when he played for the 76ers. He went to college at LSU before dropping out right after the season ended. In an interview with them, he said, I think, when asked if there was a reason for him going, he said, I think not. I think I would have learned a lot more being around professional athletes. Looking at it now, I don't really know what I learned, financially or just being a person at LSU. I think I've learned a lot more this whole year in Philly just being a pro than I did at LSU. But regardless, there are still positives for players to go into college. They can get an education, which despite not wanting to, it's still good to be educated. It gives you job security and helps you face real world problems. Also, a big problem from going to high school to the NBA is you don't get the experience that may be needed for some. Because there's some that have came straight from the high school to the NBA and have failed miserably. But this doesn't just affect those high school players. It also affects college athletes, or the college basketball system as a whole. Because of the one and done rule, players are leaving quickly. They're just coming in one year and leaving, and teams are changing, and it's hard to really just support a team that is up and down all the time. And it's kind of making the big schools stronger. There's been like UK and Duke, they'll all get the top prospects coming in, and we'll get like 5 freshmen a year, and then they'll leave the next year. And of course, it's creating controversy because players who come into college want to get paid. According to an article on athleticbusiness.com in March 2018, in September, the FBI and other federal authorities announced a sweeping investigation into bribery and corruption in college basketball. According to the FBI indictments, families of college basketball recruits were paid $100,000 and more during that season. And as far as viewership goes, it can help the viewership as far as for the NCAA. So there's a reason they probably support it, because they can increase talent each year, and with players coming and going, and the lack of experience for the best players playing that year, it's unpredictable. You can get upsets in the tournament, and frankly, it's fun to watch sometimes. But from that same interview with Ben Simmons, he talked about how the NCAA takes advantage of athletes for that viewership, and he blames them for basically using them. And you see in this graph that just the increase in younger ball players coming from high school, and then 2005 when it changed to where they have to play a year in college, how much those younger players are coming into the NBA draft. In 2017, there's roughly 17 players in that draft. That's a fourth of the total players. There's been possible rule changes. They've been talking about getting rid of the rule. According to an article on ESPN.com, the NBA is in the works of implementing a rule change to fix such issues. Nothing has been confirmed, but the talks have been about letting high schools just jump straight into the NBA, but increasing the minor league system they have implemented, so that players can gain experience and still get paid for it. Because right now, their minor league system is subpar, and there's not really any great players there. They just jump straight to the NBA. Or there's always the option of allowing a choice for the players. Either they can go straight to the pros, or if they go to college, they have to go multiple years. That can be hurtful in a way, because the high schoolers are making these decisions, and it'd be tough to get the NBA, the National Basketball Players Association, and the NCAA all to agree on letting this rule change happen. But there's also been talks about paying college athletes, which I don't think is too viable of an option, just because it would be difficult to make it happen. Plus, it could cause more corruption, because schools and brands could pay those players to go to certain schools. But in conclusion, the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and the National Basketball Players Association's Executive Director Michelle Roberts have talked about that there might be an agreement as early as 2021. Preventing high school athletes from joining the NBA had good intentions at the time, but it's just caused too much trouble and corruption. With safer and more beneficial possibilities available, there's no reason for such a rule to still exist.